Now in pre-season, not only did I give you guys my 1 to 24 Championship League table predictions, but we also asked AI where it thought each of the 24 teams would end up and why. Now, although there were a few embarrassing misses, albeit it's very difficult to predict where every team will be in pre-season, there were also a few eerily accurate hits as well. So today at the 15-game mark, I've once again put all 24 teams to the AI and asked it where it thinks each team will end up and why. So this is where it thought each team would be in pre-season. Now, there are a few pretty embarrassing misses in here. As I say, all three teams that were in the drop zone or predicted to be aren't currently. It had Sheffield Wednesday, Oxford and Plymouth in the drop zone, but you can see its argument as to why. It did have QPR and Portsmouth lingering just above the drop, but very much in a relegation battle. One eerie hit it did get on the nose, though, was Luton Town, who it had in 19th position in pre-season. And given Luton's pretty poor start, to which they're 21st, that ended up being scarily similar to what has indeed transpired. There's a lot of then teams who are in and around mid-table you'd maybe expect to be there. Cardiff, Derby, Hull, etc. all sort of lingering down there. And then you go up towards the top end. Sheffield United, it understandably didn't expect to have a good season with all the off-the-pitch issues it had in pre-season down at Bramall Lane. It didn't fancy Coventry all that much, who it had down in 10th. In the top six, it had Sunderland, who have had a very good start to the season. Same with Watford, which was a prediction I didn't believe in at the time, but has proven to be pretty darn accurate, with Burnley, West Brom and Leeds all being up there, of course. But Norwich were the team that it said would be at the top of the league. That certainly is a prediction that is wide of the mark. So, I've asked it again, and let's see where it's put each team this time. So, starting at the bottom, in 24th, dearie me, it's got Luton Town. The AI has gone in hard on the Hatters. It had them 19th last time, and you can't say it wasn't wrong. This time it predicts Luton to be bottom of the Championship. What sort of horrid future has it seen in Luton Town? It did say Luton, while incredibly well organised and solid, could be in for a tough season. They will likely battle relegation. Now, I still think 24th for Luton is an astonishing, kind of ridiculous prediction, but it did say that they would be 19th to start with, and I thought they were being stupid, and the AI was being stupid then, and look where we are. So to say 24th is a little bit crazy, but it certainly predicts Luton's season is only going to go from bad to worse, so let's keep an eye on that. 23rd, it's got Derby County. It's gotten worse for Derby County. It had them 16th before. Now it's dropped Derby to 23rd, and it says while Derby has a large fan base and some good players, their squad may not have the depth to stay competitive in the Championship. Now, I get its point, I get its reasoning, but Derby have certainly surprised me and a lot of people, and I think their home form is proving to be absolutely imperative for their survival hopes this season. So, maybe if Derby's home form drops off a cliff and their away form continues to be mediocre at best, they might slip into a relegation battle, and we still might see this prediction come true, albeit right now, I'd be surprised if there aren't three teams worse than Derby County. In 22nd, it's got Sheffield Wednesday. It's kept them exactly where it had them previously, and it says they have struggled in recent seasons, and while they have a strong fan base, they may lack the consistency needed to avoid the drop. Now, that's a very interesting point, because one big issue with Sheffield Wednesday currently is the fact that they are inconsistent, and the AI believes that that may cost them Championship status and have them drop into the bottom three. So again, its reasoning is absolutely spot on here. But like Derby, will there be three teams worse off than Sheffield Wednesday? I mean, right now I would be surprised, but with its reasoning, who knows? In 21st, it's got Pompey, and it does say a club with passionate fan base. They may struggle to keep in the Championship, potentially battling near the bottom of the table. Once again, pretty generic reasoning there, but I can certainly see Pompey being in and around 21st. I mean, if they do get a run of results going, they might be in and around it on the final day. They might have a dramatic survival on the final day. That might be where the AI is sort of putting them, but it thought they'd be 21st last time, and it still thinks they'll be 21st now. In 20th, it's got QPR, who, once again, remain in exactly the same position that the AI had it in pre-season. It does say QPR is another side that could face a tough season, potentially flirting with relegation. Now, this is where I thought QPR may be. I expected them to be higher up than 20th, to be honest. I thought they might take a step into mid-table, and I would expect them to improve on where they are currently, which is could adrift at the bottom of the Championship mid-table. So although I expect an improvement from QPR, I'm still not hopeful that they'll get themselves out of the relegation zone at this moment in time, but possibly 20th could be a position that I think they'd snap your hands off for right now. In 19th, it's got Oxford United, which I find interesting. Pre-season, the AI had Oxford 23rd, and like a lot of us, I think we all expected them to struggle, but Oxford have surprised a lot of us, and the AI recognises that because it's bumped them up into 19th, and it does say they're a good League One side, but might lack the depth to survive in the Championship, which is a fair point. Squad depth is something that I think will certainly be put to the test for a lot of sides over the next couple of weeks and months. So albeit, things are looking good for certain teams in the league right now, 15 games in, you can see why things might head south once the games come thick and fast in the Christmas period, where I think squad depth really comes into play for a lot of the bigger teams in this league. And Oxford might be a team who start to struggle due to that, but it still thinks they'll survive in 19th, and I think that's in and around where I had them as well. In 18th, it's got Plymouth Argyle, which is an interesting prediction given the fact it predicted Plymouth to be bottom of the Championship in its pre-season prediction, and Plymouth sit 18th in the real-life league table currently as well. So an interesting prediction from the AI. It does say they might struggle to stay up, but could be resilient enough to avoid relegation in a tight battle. And again, the reasoning there is completely understandable. I can see the resilience in Plymouth Argyle. I can see it in their home form. I think they really do have to improve on the road if they are to keep themselves away from the drop zone. But the words resilient certainly resonates with Plymouth in my opinion, and I can certainly see it being a tight battle as well. In 17th, however, it's predicted Millwall, which I find interesting because previously it had Millwall 13th. It's dropped them 4 places down, and it does, I think, make a good case for Millwall as a team. It says Millwall is a tough, hard-working team, but might find themselves in the lower half, fighting to stay clear of the relegation zone. They often outperform expectations, but could struggle this season. Now, everything it says about Millwall is true. They are tough, they are hard-working, and they often do outperform expectations. And they're doing that this season as well. But their numbers, their data suggests that they're actually still, even where they are, underperforming. So it's an interesting case with Millwall. Is this unbelievable underperformance going to level out and they do become a playoff outfit, or will they eventually succumb to the teams, as I say, with stronger squads, deeper squads, and start to slip down the table? Maybe. I still fancy Millwall for a strong top half finish. I'd be surprised if they dropped as low as this, because I think from where they are now, that would be a little bit disappointing. In 16th, it's got Cardiff City, and it says, while solid, they might find themselves struggling to push higher than mid-table. They can be inconsistent, but usually avoid relegation. And that is spot on with Cardiff City. They've found a bit of consistency under Omar Rizza, albeit their strong start has fizzled out a little bit. But I can absolutely see why it would have Cardiff City in 16th. Can they put together a run to really sustain a playoff push? I don't think so. But as it says, they're usually strong enough to stay clear of the bottom 3, but are inconsistent. So I can see the logic here, and I can absolutely see why Cardiff could finish in around 16th. In 15th, this is really, really interesting, because as I say, it didn't fancy Coventry City pre-season, having them in 10th. It certainly doesn't fancy Coventry City now, because it's got them in 15th. It says that Coventry should still be competitive, which I understand, but with some of the stronger teams in this league, they may finish slightly lower this time around. So the AI certainly does not fancy Coventry City, and I think based off of their poor start, that's a completely logical decision and outcome to come to. And I think given the uncertainty around who their new manager might be, that also makes sense to have Coventry in and around 15th. I still fancied them to be higher just because of their strength and depth and their squad, but the AI thinks they'll drop down to 15th, and given their start and the position they're in, I can absolutely see that maybe being the case. In 14th, it's got Preston. Once again, absolutely can see this. It does say Preston is a typically mid-table team. You can sort of 100% say that for certain over the years. And it says that they don't push for playoffs too often. They'll likely remain in the bottom half of the table without really being in the danger zone. And I think it summed up Preston to a T there. Their mid-table mediocrity, for more seasons, they might have the odd flirt with the playoffs, but Preston are one of the most mid-table teams in the Championship. I think, though, 14th might be a bit high from where they are right now. They struggled to start with, and they sort of still are struggling a little bit under Paul Heckingbottom. But if he does get a real grip on that team and improves their away form especially, I can see Preston finishing in 14th. But even though the position may seem a bit high, all the reasoning put to us by the eye is absolutely bang on. In 13th, it's got Swansea City, another team that I absolutely agree with. In fact, I think I might have had Swansea in 13th in my own league table prediction as well. It's dropped them from where it had them pre-season, which was 7th, and it does say Swansea could be slightly lower than expected, but still solidly in mid-table. They have good coaching, which I agree with, and a playing philosophy, which I agree with, but may struggle for consistency in a very competitive league. Again, nail on the head. Swansea have been rather up, rather down. They don't score many, they don't concede many. I don't think they've put a real run of results together as yet. And for me, as I've said many times, scream mid-table. And the AI absolutely agrees with that. So once again, I find myself completely agreeing. In 12th, it's got Blackburn Rovers, which is exactly where I had them in my league table as well. It's quite weird how close the AI has predicted this to my own league table, and the reasoning as well. I swear, I used ChatGPT for this, and this is what it has come out with. But it's got Blackburn 12th. I had them in 12th as well. It says Blackburn has the potential to be in the mix for the playoffs, but often falls short, likely finishing mid-table. Couldn't disagree with that either. Blackburn have already flirted with playoffs this season. They've had a fantastic start, as they often well do. They do often fall short, as it says, when they sort of slowly drift away as the season goes on, and whether that's down to consistency, squad depth, or whatever you want to call it, Blackburn always fizzle away and just fall short and drop into that mid-table space, and that's exactly where I had them as well, right in 12th. In 11th, it's got Hull City, and when you look at the expected data, this is actually in and around where Hull City should be. It does say Hull City have been steadily improving, and with decent investment and management, they should stay around the middle of the table. Now, I think this is reasoning more for before Tim Volter come in, because this would fit perfectly to a Liam Rosenior Hull City that I still think were steadily improving. They did have good investment. I think they were well managed. However, now with Tim Volter, there is such a huge degree of unpredictability about Hull City. And it's the same with the club and the ownership. You don't know when they might pull the trigger, when they might make a change. I just can't say for sure what's going to happen at Hull, because it just feels so unstable right now. We just don't know what is around the corner. So I think 11th is a very, very hopeful finish for Hull City. Numbers suggest that's where they should be, but they're not. And that's why I think at this moment, anything could happen at the MKM. In 10th, it's got Bristol City, which is exactly where I put Bristol City as well. They scream 10th for me, and yeah, it's bumped them up from 14th before, which I think is fair given their really good start under Liam Manning, but it does have them in and around 10th, and I think that is exactly where Bristol City will finish. It says consistently competitive, which you can't sort of disagree with. Bristol City could be in the playoff mix, but may not have the depth to push for promotion. Absolutely spot on. I think on their day, Bristol City could beat anybody, but they don't quite have the strength in depth that I think a lot of the teams that will be in the top 6 too. So they're just a little bit out of it at the moment. They can flirt with it. They might get in there once or twice. A good run might get them in there at some stage, but do they have the depth? Do they have the quality to be in there consistently? I don't think so, and that's exactly what the AI says. Consistently competitive, yes, but might just not quite have enough to get in there this season. Once again, cannot disagree at all. In 9th, it's got Watford, which I find interesting because, as I say, pre-season it had Watford 5th. They've started the season really, really well, but it has them down in 9th. And I don't disagree with this. In fact, I think I had Watford 8th in my prediction. So again, really, really close to what I sort of predicted. But it says Watford will probably be in mid-table. They have quality, but struggle to sustain top-tier form. And I'd agree with this 100% too. I think we've seen many, many times this season that Watford do indeed have the quality in their team to put together some outstanding results, but equally can have some absolute stinkers at the same time. So the AI sums up Watford brilliantly once again. They have quality, yes, but they do struggle to sustain top-tier form, with them being so good at home, but also being so bad away. Teams won't win the same number of games that they lose and get into the top 6, and that's exactly where I feel Watford will be. And although I've got them 8th, having them in 9th, I think is very realistic. In 8th, it's got Stoke City, and it's always been quite high on Stoke. It had them 9th pre-season, it has them 8th now, and it says a well-established club in the Championship, Stoke can often be a solid mid-table side with occasional pushes for the playoffs if they find consistency. Now, I don't quite agree with the bit where it says can be often a solid mid-table side, because they've consistently been 14th, 15th, 16th, probably down to 17th or 18th. But I do agree when it says that it's a well-established club, and it probably does have the quality. Stoke just always find a way of making life harder for themselves by changing the manager, ripping up the rule book and starting again, and setting themselves right back to square one by maybe not having the patience required to let a new manager take its time and really build a squad, build a way of playing, build a philosophy. Maybe Schumacher wasn't allowed that, and once again they've pressed the reset button and started from scratch. And I think if Stoke keep going around in this cycle, they will keep finishing in 16th. Maybe what the AI is suggesting is their potential if Stoke can actually just have a solid, steady season without chaos. So I don't agree that this will be where Stoke will finish this season. I think they'll be in and around where they always have been. However, this could be their potential. In 7th, it's got Norwich City. Interesting, because pre-season it had Norwich top of the league. Now it has them down in 7th, which I think is a lot more accurate. It says a club with a proven championship pedigree. Norwich is likely to be in the mix for a playoff, but might fall short depending on the competition. And that's a very, very good point, if I'm honest. I think it depends on what happens in the top 6, because my previous top 6 and my current top 6 haven't changed. I've jigged the positions around a little bit, and you'll find out where I've predicted each and every team in the video I did a few days ago where I updated my own personal Championship 1 to 24. But I mentioned in that my top 6 has remained unchanged, and I did not have Norwich in my top 6 either, but I can absolutely see why it mentions depending on competition, because if Burnley slip out of there, if West Brom don't quite make it, if Boro drop out of there, Norwich would be one of the very, very first teams you think of who could be queuing up to get in. So I see exactly why it would have Norwich in and around the playoffs. They've obviously dropped off recently, but they have the home form to be in there. Their away form is what I think they're really, really struggling with. So Norwich, with the squad they have, they definitely should be knocking on the door. And I think the reasoning here that the AI's put forward is absolutely bang on as well. In 6th, it's got Sunderland. It's bumped Sunderland up, I believe. In fact, no, it hasn't. It's kept them exactly the same. I do apologise. It had Sunderland 6th before, and it's kept Sunderland in 6th again. So, in pre-season, it saw the potential of Sunderland, which, I'll be honest, like me and a lot of other people, didn't. But even with Sunderland's really strong start, the AI remains not unconvinced. It just has them in exactly the same place. It's not getting too excited by Sunderland, I think, what the AI is saying. It does give a very accurate depiction of Sunderland. It says that they are an upward trajectory, or they're on an upward trajectory with exciting young players and a passionate fan base. They are expected to be near the top of the table and possibly challenging for promotion, and you can't disagree with that whatsoever. They are on an upward trajectory, maybe on a higher upward trajectory than anybody expected, but they do have an exciting squad. They do have a passionate fan base, and as it said, they are expected to be near the top and challenging for promotion. So I can't disagree with anything the AI has said here. And as I said in my prediction video, I still think there'll be a drop-off with Sunderland, but I don't think it will be enough for them to drop out of the top 6. So again, I think this is near enough spot on. In 5th, it's got my lot. It's got the Boro, and it says something similar. It says Middlesbrough has a good mix of young talent and experience, which is 100% bang on with our squad. They are likely to be in contention for the playoffs and could push for an automatic promotion spot with some consistency. Absolutely nailed it. That's exactly where Boro are at. We do have a squad exactly as described, and I think we are likely to be in the top 6 just because of the football we play, the numbers we're knocking at, and the squad we have. And it's spot on once again. If Boro find consistency, there will be a push for the automatic promotion places, and that is bang on the money. The one thing Boro have lacked this season is consistency, and had we had it, and we hadn't dropped stupid points to Pompey, to Preston, found a way to draw against Norwich, found a way to somehow lose at Watford, Boro would be in and around the top 2, maybe in the top 2 already. So yeah, this is an absolutely perfect depiction of Boro. From a Boro fan, I couldn't agree more. In fourth, it has West Bromwich Albion. It says they've been competitive in recent seasons and have the squad and resources to mount a serious challenge for promotion, whether by automatic spots or playoffs. Couldn't agree more. Once again, West Brom are usually very competitive whenever they're in the Championship, and I agree. Maybe the squad isn't quite as strong as maybe AI thinks. I think it's a good squad, but with Carlos Corberán, you're always going to mount a challenge of sorts, and it mentions a serious challenge for promotion, whether automatic spots or playoffs, and I agree 100%. I did think West Brom could be an outsider for top two, and that still might be the case, even though they're going through a bit of a rough spell right now, but with Corberán at the helm, as it mentions, they should definitely be in the top six. In third, it's got Burnley. Once again, can't knock this either. It says their squad depth and managerial experience will see them pushing for promotion straight away. And I agree with that. They've got a very, very good squad. And I think when it says managerial experience, it's looking at Scott Parker and it's looking at his CV, which even though his football is dire, and even though his managerial career makes no sense at times, how he's managed to get teams promoted as often as he has done, it does make sense when you look at the numbers. The number of promotions he's had, his experience at getting teams out of this division into the Premier League, absolutely rings true here. And as it says, pushing for promotion straight away is what you would expect from a team like Burnley, who've just come down with the parachute payments. And although I'm a little less convinced and I have them a little bit further down in the playoffs, you can't argue with it having Burnley in the top three. So, top two. Every prediction I've looked at from other YouTubers had these two in its top two. And spoilers, I had these two in my top two as well. I think it's pretty universal that Leeds and Sheffield United are in the top two. But although the AI agrees with most people, it has them the other way around. Because in second, it doesn't have Sheffield United. It has Leeds United. And it does say a club that has recently been in the Premier League and has the resources to dominate the Championship. Expect them to challenge for the top two spots or at least a playoff space. Now that is bang on. It had Leeds second last time, in fairness, but I can't disagree with any of that. You know, when it says that they have the potential to dominate the Championship, I agree. I've said on numerous occasions, if they get a run going, they are the only team who I would predict and expect to go on a run that would make them capable of being right at the top. And Leeds are the team I think will still have enough to get to the top of the Championship. So I agree with its reasoning completely, and it does say expect them to challenge for the top two spots, or at least a playoff position. And the words at least are so bang on the money. Leeds have to be at least playoffs, but definitely in the conversation for top two. However, it does have a different team top of the league. Now, although a lot of people might, find AI stupid and might not agree with it and basically banish its opinion and what it says, it's been fairly accurate throughout this entire prediction. And I think this is another real nod to the accuracy of the AI, because pre-season it had this team 11th. Like a lot of people like me, I didn't have Sheffield United in my top six because of all the off-the-field pre-season issues. But this shows that it recognises what was happening before, but it also recognises what's happened since, because it now has Sheffield United as the title winners, and it says they have solid Premier League pedigree and they'll have a strong squad capable of making an immediate push for promotion. And I find it so intriguing how differently it looks at Sheffield United from pre-season to now, because it now has them top of the league, and I couldn't agree more. Although I had Leeds top, I've said, as of a lot of other people, Leeds and Sheffield United just look like the two teams who, have the squads. I know Sunderland are top now, but they have the squads that I think can cope with the longevity of a Championship season. They will just be 7 out of 10 from start to finish. They won't be riddled, due to squad depth or possibly conceding goals. Sheffield United are a team I can absolutely rely on to keep the goals out and just keep chipping away 7 out of 10s each and every week to get them in to the top two. I think Leeds will have that extra gear that will allow them to motor away and go top of the league, but I can absolutely see why the AI would have them both top two, albeit on this occasion it predicts Sheffield United to win the league. So there are the predictions. That's what the AI thinks. And again, I know a lot of people will just laugh and instantly banish this video and the idea of it. And listen, at the end of the day, it's just a bit of fun. but a lot of its takes are incredibly accurate. A lot of its reasoning is really, really logical, and a lot of its positioning has teams exactly where I put them in my own league prediction. And I did my own league prediction last week. I didn't use AI for any of that, and the AI has come out with stuff that's incredibly similar. Its top 6 is exactly the same as my top 6. Again, the positioning is a little bit different, but I find it really interesting where it's placed quite a few teams, predicting that Watford would have a good season, predicting that Luton are going to have a shocker. They're going to finish bottom, apparently. I'll be very intrigued to see where all of this ends up and how true it all ends up being. But you can't say some of its preseason predictions have proven true, and how it's applied its logic to where the league is now has come true as well. So let's see how close the AI is to the league table at the end of the season. Maybe we'll revisit this in May. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below on the AI's predicted league table and its logic, and maybe how it applies to your team and whether you agree or disagree. But if you've enjoyed the video, as always, do hit a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for much more cool football related content in the Championship. We do predict most rounds of the Championship and review each and every round as well here on the channel. And as I say, if you've not checked out my own updated league table prediction, it is up on the channel. It was up only a few days ago. But until next time, guys, do take care. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one.